Shortly before noon today, the phones of journalists in Delhi lit up with a text message that was greeted with a shock. 4 senior judges of the Supreme Court were going to hold a press conference, it said. It's unheard of, unprecedented. It's never ever happened before in independent India's history. The 4 judges, Justices Chalameshwar, Gogoi, Lokur and Joseph, virtually revolted against the Chief Justice of India, Deepak Mishra. They released a stinging letter they had written to him 2 months ago, saying that all was not well with the administration of the Supreme Court. Unless this institution is preserved, democracy will not survive in this country, Justice Chalameshwar said. He said all 4 judges had met the Chief Justice this morning and raised issues affecting the institution, but in his words had failed to persuade the Chief Justice that certain things are not in order. That was when they decided to meet the press and go public. The judges strongly hit out at the way cases were allotted by the Chief Justice, saying in their letter that there have been instances where cases having far-reaching consequences for the nation had been assigned by the Chief Justices to this court selectively to the benches of their preference. One of those cases is a particularly sensitive one, the death of Judge LOYA, who was once hearing the Sohrabuddin fake encounter case, in which BJP Chief Amit Shah was an accused. Mr. Shah was later exonerated by the judge who replaced LOYA. Judge LOYA's death has been the subject of a lot of controversy recently, and the top court was due to hear a petition on it today, which it did, except that it was listed before the 10th ranked judge of the court and not one of the senior judges. When asked if Judge LOYA's case was also among those that they were upset about, Justice Gogoi simply said, yes.
That this was an unprecedented and historic moment was not lost on India's senior-most judges after the Chief Justice.
I don't want another 20 years later some very wise man in this country blame that Chalameshwar, Ranjan Gogoi, Madan Lokur and Kurian Joseph sold their souls. They didn't take care of this institution. They didn't take care of the interests of this nation. All 4 of us are convinced that unless this institution is preserved and it maintains its equanimity, the democracy will not survive in this country or any country.
Of the 4, Justice Chalameshwar is the second senior-most judge and has earlier questioned the collegium process where judges appoint judges, calling it a euphemism for nepotism where mediocrity or even less is promoted. Justice Ranjan Gogoi is the 3rd senior-most, but will be the next Chief Justice as Justice Chalameshwar retires before the term of the current Chief. Justices Lokur and Joseph are the 4th and 5th senior-most. The 4 spoke out after meeting the Chief Justice, Deepak Mishra, this morning.
4 of us went and met the Honorable the Chief Justice of India with a specific request, which we could not unfortunately convince him that we were right and the appropriate decision is to be taken. We couldn't convince him.
The trigger appears to be the assigning of a sensitive case, a petition on the death of Judge B.H. LOYA, who was trying the Gujarat Sohrabuddin fake encounter case. Senior lawyers say this petition should have been heard by one of these 4, given their seniority.
ये 4 बहुत ही responsible और बहुत conservative judges हैं. अगर उनको ये करना पड़ा तो जाहिर है कि मामला उनके पानी उनके नाक के ऊपर पहुंच चुका था.
This is the 7-page letter they sent to the Chief Justice. The first key issue they raised is the Chief Justice's privilege to determine the roster, which they said is a convention, but not a recognition of any superior authority, and went on without mentioning details of cases with far-reaching consequences, which had been assigned by the Chief Justice to benches of their preference. But addressing the present Chief Justice directly, they raised the Memorandum of Procedure issue. This is the appointment of judges by the senior-most judges, what's called the collegium.
On 27th October last year, a 2-judge bench took up a case on the Memorandum of Procedure on appointing judges and called the Attorney General. But Chief Justice of India took that case from that bench and later Chief Justice bench dismissed it, saying collegium is finalizing it.
In this letter, the 4 dissenting judges write there was no occasion for the bench to make any observation with regard to the finalization of the Memorandum of Procedure, or that the issue cannot linger for any indefinite period.
Business as usual, Chief Justice returned to Court 1. 4 judges say they will be back on Monday, but the press meet questioning Chief Justice decisions is a major jolt to one of India's most respected institutions, the Supreme Court of India. In New Delhi, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
So it's very clear that there are a number of things that were brewing and that this was a confrontation that was brewing for some time. But But as we pointed out, there is one particular sensitive case that stands out in this, and that is the case of the death of Judge LOYA, the man who was trying the Sohrabuddin Sheikh fake encounter case in which Amit Shah was once an accused. The death of Judge LOYA, as we said, considerable controversy around the circumstances now in which he died after his family came forward and said that they had doubts about that night when he actually supposedly had a heart attack. Well, let's take a look at what the case is about and why it's so sensitive, and why, in fact, Rahul Gandhi has in the last few minutes called for a Supreme Court monitored probe into Judge LOYA's death.
Could the flashpoint for this unusual press conference be the unusual death of a Mumbai judge, Judge LOYA?
Two petitions filed in the Supreme Court seeking a probe into Judge LOYA's death were listed before Justice Arun Mishra's bench, who is ranked as number 10 in the Supreme Court seniority. The four rebel judges met the Chief Justice of India today morning, voiced their concern, saying that important sensitive matters are being allocated to junior judges.
When asked at the press conference whether the meeting and the decision to go public was prompted by the bench set up in the case of Justice LOYA, the answer was yes.
This is about lawyers thing? Is it Justice LOYA? Yes.
Judge LOYA died suddenly in 2014 while hearing the CBI's investigation into the killing of the alleged gangster Sohrabuddin Sheikh, in which BJP President Amit Shah was the chief accused. The cause of Justice LOYA's death was recorded as a cardiac arrest, but his relatives told the Caravan magazine that they had their doubts over his death, leading to multiple demands for an inquiry. Indra Jaising was lawyer for one of the petitioners who moved the Supreme Court, asking for an independent probe into the LOYA case.
Maybe LOYA was the tipping point, maybe. But the fact that they went to meet the Chief Justice today, and the matter was listed today in court number 10 as item 53, and I was there representing the Bombay Lawyers Association, is an indication of the fact that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
The bench hearing this case termed it as serious and directed the Maharashtra government to produce all records pertaining to this case before the next hearing, that's on 15 January. In New Delhi, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
And Congress President Rahul Gandhi held a press conference just a little while earlier where he has in fact called for a probe into Judge LOYA's death at the highest levels of the Supreme Court, while also expressing concern at what the judges said today.
The points that have been raised by the four judges are extremely important. They have mentioned that there is a threat to democracy. I think it needs to be looked into. It needs to be looked into carefully. They've also made a point about Judge LOYA's case. I think that is also something that needs to be investigated properly. It needs to be looked at from the highest levels of the Supreme Court. I think that would be broadly what I would say. This type of thing has never happened before. It's unprecedented.
And just to say that the BJP has not officially reacted to this. The government has not reacted either. The government saying essentially that this is an internal matter of the judiciary and that they would not want to intervene. Joining us tonight, former Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Justice A.P. Shah. Also with us, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Mr. Dushyant Dave, who has been writing extensively on this issue and in fact has written another piece which we will get into in some detail. Prashant Bhushan, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, also with us tonight, and Ashwini Kumar, Senior Congress Leader and former Law Minister of India, with us this evening. Rajiv Pandey, who's also a lawyer and member of the BJP, is going to be joining us from Mumbai shortly. Justice Shah, to you first. The judiciary, sir, seems to be very divided today. Opinion seems to be very divided in the legal fraternity about what has happened. What do you think, sir?
I would, at the outset, I would say that this is a unprecedented and extraordinary step taken by the four senior-most judges to hold a press conference and to talk to people, talk to the nation. It appears that from the letter which was circulated, that this issue had been brewing for a long time. They approached the Chief Justice 2 months back. They had some grievances. It appears that those grievances were not addressed. One of the charge made by the four judges is that the assignment of the cases, sensitive cases, have been done on selective basis. There is no doubt that the Chief Justice is the master of the rolls. He has the discretion to allocate matters to different benches. But that power has to be exercised in good faith and for the protection of the rule of law. This power, according to the 4 judges, is being misused. It is a serious charge against the Chief Justice. The fact that 4 senior-most judges, and I know them personally, they are judges of unimpeachable integrity. Their judicial work is outstanding, and they decide to go to public and hold a press conference. It shows that there is something very seriously wrong with the working of the Supreme Court. It is a catastrophe for the Supreme Court if the charge leveled by the 4 judges is true, that the sensitive matters have been allocated on selective basis. And if you ask my personal opinion, I share their view. I have been watching the developments in the Supreme Court for quite some time. And even I get, as an outsider, I'm no longer part of the court system, but as an outsider, I get that feeling that there is some sort of a arbitrary selection of the benches. It's not every judge is a judge of the Supreme Court. I don't say that there is any distinction between the senior judges and the junior judges, but there are certain protocols which have been observed throughout. And it appears, Judge LOYA's case might be a trigger point, but it appears from the letter that there are several other instances where these 4 judges have taken the issue with the Chief Justice of India. It's rather unfortunate that this issue could not be resolved amongst the judges, and ultimately it resulted into this very widely publicized.
It is very significant what you're saying, sir. It's very significant.
The second issue is...
Yeah, sorry, please go ahead. I just wanted to briefly interrupt you there to ask the counterpoint, which is that those, who are critical of what happened today basically believe that this is something that shouldn't have been raised in public, that this had to be resolved in private. Now, it clearly appears that these 4 learned judges were exasperated and gave up, and it came to this point where we've never seen this happen in independent India's history. What would you say, sir, to those who believe that this is a matter that shouldn't have been made public at any cost, that this is something that could really hurt the working of the judiciary?
I think, Didi, what you said is correct, that they are exasperated, that they see no point in talking to the Chief Justice, and they feel that this is a very important matter for preservation of independent judiciary. Look at the words used by the Justice Chalmeshwar. He said that the democracy should survive. He said that we will not sell our souls. So this is a far more serious matter. Now there is some sort of a unwritten rule amongst the judges that they do not speak about their colleagues or their Chief Justice in open. That's the practice followed, and as a result, according to me, many Chief Justices and many judges have escaped, though they were prima facie guilty of some serious misconduct. Now today, the situation has come to such a pass that these 4 judges believe that unless it is made public, there will not be end to it. Now just imagine, I'm just addressing this issue, why it could not have been resolved amongst the judges. Where was the need for going to public? It means that if their charge is correct and the allocation of the work is being done on selective basis, then it should be allowed to be continued so that the judiciary is not seen in bad light. I completely oppose to this view. If there is any wrongdoing within the Supreme Court, it is the duty of not only the senior judges, or it is also the duty of every judge to say it openly, to say it right to the Chief Justice. And if he is not open to reason, then surely
you believe
this is
that
a
they had
case
no
where the matter has to be taken to the people.
You believe that they had no choice. Dushyant Dave, let me get you in here, because you, of course, have been raising this issue about
from the letter.
Mr. Dave, you've been raising this issue about the Chief Justice for quite some time, and you've also written a piece where you have talked about a series of cases where you believe that there was an arbitrary action by the Chief Justice in the allocation of benches and so on. Let's talk about that. Did it really have to come to this today? And I mean, very simply, when all these judges go back to work on Monday, what happens? How does the Indian Supreme Court function smoothly from here?
I really don't know how this could be resolved.
Mr. Dave,
they must talk and
right.
They must try to resolve the issue.
Sir, this question is for Mr. Dave.
By discussion amongst judges.
Right. Sorry, this question is for Mr. Dushyant Dave.
Sorry, I did.
No problem, sir.
Sorry.
Well, Nidhi, let me tell you first and foremost, today what has happened was inevitable. It should have happened long back. For almost 2 decades, all kinds of wrong has been going on in the Supreme Court, and it has been shoved under the carpet. Nobody wants to discuss it, much less openly. Senior lawyers have not talked about it. Judges who have, good judges have known about it. They have not talked about it. The media has been silent. Everybody has benefited, and the beneficiaries wanted this system to continue. Those beneficiaries will naturally attack these 4 great judges who have today come out and publicly expressed their anguish as to what really is the state of affairs in the Supreme Court. So let's understand one thing. What I believe is not important. The facts are important, and the facts demonstrate that since Chief Justice Mishra came to be appointed as Chief Justice, he has been selectively and singularly assigning important politically sensitive matters to certain judges and certain judges alone. It is a disgrace on the part of the Supreme Court that this should have happened. It is a greater disgrace that those judges to whom these matters have been assigned have accepted and acted on those matters. They should have politely refused to accept those matters and said, please, Chief Justice, mark these matters to appropriate benches. So there is something which is viciously wrong in the functioning of the Supreme Court. Judge Loya's case is the culmination of this, and you have to understand that Justice Arun Mishra, to whom the bench matter has been assigned, is known to have very clear political relations with BJP leadership. I have seen with my own eyes at his nephew's reception.
That is a very serious accusation you're making. That's a very serious accusation you're making, Mr. Dave. And that is your accusation, to accuse a Supreme Court judge of political...
It's not an accusation. Please don't miss... It's not accusation. It is a fact. Everybody knows about it, and Judge, I was present myself. I have already written, it's in public domain. When I attacked the Birla Sahara judgment by Justice Arun Mishra, I have said so. And it is known to people. What I am saying is that nobody today, why is it that BJP and Mr. Amit Shah are so keen that this matter is disposed of by a certain bench? It really sends extremely sad signals, wrong signals. I respectfully urge Honorable Chief Justice and Honorable Justice Arun Mishra, for whom I have respect, and the Supreme Court, whom I respect the most, that they should really retrieve the situation, not give an impression that certain matters are going to be decided by certain judges. For example, Aadhaar matter. Why talk about LOYA case? Aadhaar matter, the Chief Justice has constituted a bench which does not comprise of senior members of the 9-judge privacy matter. Justice Chalmeshwar and Justice Bobde, 2 senior judges, have been hearing Aadhaar case since 2013. Why are they excluded? Why did this newly constituted bench decline stay which citizens wanted? So there are many matters. For example, this Mr. Asthana's matter, CBI Additional Director, it should have been heard by Justice Gogoi's bench. It was sent to Justice R.K. Agarwal. Now, all these judges should have declined. Propriety demanded on their part that they should have not fallen prey to Chief Justice's attempts. to compromise the integrity of the institution. It is not right for us to say that, oh, this should not be discussed. This has to be discussed. Unless we discussed in open, the antiseptic has to take place now. Otherwise, how are we going to clean the system? For 2 decades, nonsense has been going on Supreme Court. No senior lawyer wants to talk.
I want to take a couple of things that you said, and they're all important. I want to take them to Mr. Ashwini Kumar, who's also been the law minister of this country. And Mr. Kumar, you're wearing 2 hats tonight, both as a former law minister, a senior lawyer yourself, as well as somebody who represents the Congress party. We've heard Rahul Gandhi's statement just now. There are 2 aspects to this story, a couple of aspects. One, of course, is the implications for the judiciary and what this is going to mean for the judiciary. But there are also big political implications here. And let's talk about that. I mean, what do you think, where do you think that this could possibly go?
Well, Nidhi, let me make the first point first. When we talk about threats to the independence of judiciary from within the system, this also gives rise to a very important political question. It gives rise to the future of our democracy, as Justice Chalameshwar himself pointed out. But what I do want to state is that the anguish that was expressed and implicit in the press statement of the 4 senior most distinguished judges known for their integrity and probity itself raises many, many questions. For Justice Chalameshwar to say that we do not want future generations to accuse us of bartering our soul is a very damning indictment on the system which is in place. And some of the points that have been made by the speakers who spoke before me are valid points. But at the heart of the entire debate is that the people of this country will lose faith in this great temple of justice, where we have prayed for justice for years and years and years now. And for senior lawyers to be able to come on your show and on other television channels and to say that things are terribly wrong with the judges and with the judicial system is in itself a message. And I think it's a valid message to give. And now that the matter has been put in the public domain by the judges themselves, you can't say that they should not be discussed in the public. It is an extremely important public issue, and it will be debated, it will be discussed. There are far-reaching political implications. For example, 1 or 2 cases that have been mentioned have definite political connotations, and that is why something was stated in the Congress's press conference today. The very least that is now required to be done is to take effective steps, and I think the court itself will have to take effective steps to dispel the apprehensions which have been expressed by the judges themselves. So how can anybody impute motives to the judges? There are 4 judges next in seniority, known for their impartiality and integrity. I think it's a damning indictment on what is happening in the court itself. It puts us all to shame, and I hang my head in shame.
In fact, Justice Gogoi is supposed to be the next Chief Justice of India. And I just want viewers to think about that for a minute, because 3 of the 4 judges today will be retiring later this year, but Justice Gogoi is next in line to be the Chief Justice of India, and he has spoken out the way that he has today. Let me get Mr. Rajiv Pandey in here, who is of course a lawyer himself and a member of the BJP. Mr. Pandey, at the very least now, don't you think that Judge Loya's case should be investigated, as the Congress has also said, by judges of the Supreme Court or a Supreme Court monitored probe to dispel any doubts anymore?
You see, that will be decided by the appropriate bench of the Honorable Supreme Court of India. I think notice is issued to the state of Maharashtra also. That issue is pending before Honorable Supreme Court of India. And Nidhi, I will request you not to link this whole debate with LOYA case. You know, these very senior most judges has made some remark, and they have come out in public to discuss the issue what they felt it is necessary. But what about, there are 20 more Honorable Supreme Court of India judges in the Supreme Court. What to say about that? I personally feel this is a very sad day that the dispute, or that whatever was that, these 24 judges should have sat together and discuss and finish it off. Because now on this issue, what a common man can do, if suppose we are debating, you are now saying because of this reason, now the LOYA case should be investigated by an independent SIT under the Supreme Court. I am unable to understand that issue, that PIL is pending before Honorable Supreme Court of India, and that will be decided on the merit of that PIL. That one petition is pending in Bombay High Court also. The issue is what these honorable 4 judges have raised, that who can decide that? Government cannot interfere, because otherwise people will say that government is interfering in the judicial system. It is, it should be decided by the top lawyers, senior members of the bar, and Honorable Supreme Court Chief Justice, along with all judges.
But is it a matter
that
the government or the party can really distance themselves from? Because the issue here is, Mr. Pandey, that the accusation is that politically sensitive cases in particular are being assigned or have been assigned to certain benches, and there must be a reason for that. It's not just a simple internal matter of the judiciary.
So Nidhi, so what?
If that's true.
Nidhi.
Yeah.
Nidhi, what Dushyant Dave has said, what Dushyant Dave ji has said, I have very high regards to him. What he said by taking name of Justice Arun Mishra and R.K. Agrawal, this is not acceptable. What he said, that deliberately Chief Justice is marking cases to him, these 2 benches, and trying to give favor to the government. That means, as per Dushyant Dave, that Chief Justice is working as per the directives of the government of India. So what is left?
Well, I think that's what he's asking. That's what I think Dushyant Dave is asking. Before I get Prashant Bhushan into this, Mr. Dave.
This is rubbish.
Mr. Dave, do you want to quickly respond to that?
These kind of things,
that is what Mr. Dave is saying.
Now, can I make one more line?
Yeah,
sure. In Supreme Court, there are some lawyers who are doing less practice, more politics in the Supreme Court corridor and in the Supreme Court. They should join politics and do politics.
Are you saying that the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court are also being driven by politics? Are you saying the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court are being driven by politics? Are the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court also being driven by politics and political considerations?
I don't know who Mr. Pandey is, but I don't think he knows what senior lawyers are and who really senior lawyers are in the Supreme Court.
Well, Prashant Bhushan has been listening patiently, and I just want to get him in on this, because Prashant Bhushan, let's just look at the ramifications for this, and I ask you what I was asking everyone else. How does the Supreme Court function from here? And B, there is a massive political fallout from this as well. I think that people who ignored certain sensitive cases like Judge LOYA's case can't ignore it anymore, including in the media.
Yes, Judge LOYA's case is certainly very important, and the most recent example of what these senior judges say, bench fixing by the Chief Justice. Now, this is a pattern that has emerged. Today we have issued a press release in which we have mentioned 7-8 other cases also, which are all politically sensitive cases or otherwise sensitive cases, where benches have been fixed in a very arbitrary manner by the Chief Justice. Take for example this very medical college case. That medical college case directly involves the Chief Justice because it involves a CBI investigation into a charge of bribery to procure a judgment of the Supreme Court, which the Chief Justice himself was handling. Now, how could he have heard such a case himself, which he did, even though he was asked that he has a conflict of interest, he should recuse himself. Thereafter, he was also told that he should not fix a bench in this matter because he has no business to even exercise his administrative power as master of the roster in a case involving himself. But he did so by withdrawing the case from the 5 senior most judges to which it had been sent in view of its importance and sensitivity by Justice Chelameshwar's bench. He withdrew it from the 5 senior most judges and listed it before 3 junior judges of the Supreme Court. I mean, this is the grossest possible abuse of the authority of the Chief Justice as master of roster. Now, this kind of thing, the Chief Justice is supposed to be only the first among equals. His power as master of roster is not a power which can be exercised arbitrarily in this manner by saying that I will list particular politically sensitive cases before benches of my choice without any regard to assignment of particular jurisdictions to particular benches. That's what he can do. He has to exercise this power as master of roster in a fair, transparent and rational manner. Otherwise, this is an administrative power. Abuse of any administrative power is illegal and mala fide. And this is what has been happening repeatedly. And that is why these 4 judges have had to take this unprecedented step of addressing a press conference when this issue was not being resolved internally, because by this you are subverting the whole course of justice in all important politically sensitive matters and thereby endangering democracy and the future of the republic itself.